Welcome to everybody who has already said hello. Hi, Nikki over on YouTube. How am I feeling? Yeah, pretty good, but not 100%. So I didn't go to choir last night, as it happened. I'm not sure if my camera's a bit blurred. Is it, Johnny?
It's hard to see because you're a small image.
I'm a small image.
Yeah, maybe a little bit.
Let's just do this. Sometimes this works. Gone. Now I've come back. That's a bit better. Hi, Caroline. Good evening. Yeah, Caroline, I've just had a bit of a head cold. Johnny was very gracious and shared it with me. So, you know, he's ever giving. Good evening, Sally, as well. I hope you're okay. Right. Welcome, everybody, to this evening of Crystals for Depression, which sounds a little bit depressing, really.
Not after you've got the crystals.
But not after you've got the crystals. That is true. Okay. Do feel free to use the chat as your way of asking any questions at any point. Johnny is behind the curtain as usual. He's like my Wizard of Oz, behind the curtain, working his magic to answer as many queries as possible if he can, or at the very least, stop me in my tracks and make sure that I glance at some of the questions, because once I get going, that's it. I can lose track of things. So, oh, good evening, Rachel. I hope you're well. I can see Johnny's commenting away nicely. All right, wonderful. Okay.
Every now and again.
So yes, feel free to share the link as well. This is one of those workshops that I'm particularly interested in getting to reach as many people as possible, for obvious reasons. If people are interested in crystals and they're, you know, like myself, dealing and managing or suffering with depression, then the two go hand in hand as a way of crystals supporting us through that process. So feel free to share this link as much as you can. This is obviously a free event. We do have a free resource product on our Woo Woo Guru portal. You can find that at the following link. I will just pop that wooguru.co.uk/free-woo. Oh, without the hashtag. There we go. So yeah, if you would like more information, have some free meditations and stuff, see what we're all about, then feel free to pop by there and just register a profile. It's free, all free. There are other things on there as well that are not free, and you know, have a mooch and see if anything takes your fancy. Paula is all new to crystals, but very interested. Well, that's the kind of person that we want to reach. So not everybody is up on their crystals. And so that's why I'm here, to share knowledge that I've accrued over the past 15, 16 years or more. Who knows? Right. Now, before we get started, though, into the sort of nitty gritty of things, I want to make abundantly clear that I am not a counsellor. I am not a physician of any kind. And I cannot give you personal guidance in terms of medications or treatments outside of the crystals that I'm going to talk about tonight. Now, professional help is extremely important if you feel that you are struggling to deal with any form of deep depression. I myself have experienced the depths of despair and depression brought on by many traumas in my own life from a young age. And I turned down many different paths that only caused me more challenges, and crystals have supported me through that over the last 16 years or so. Actually, a lot longer than that, but I wasn't aware of it. However, I also had the support of an amazing therapist, without whom I would surely not be here. The support of family and friends cannot be overlooked either. Again, having gone through a lot of work, deep personal healing work, I wouldn't be here without the fella behind the curtain, and many other people. Okay, so if you feel that you are at the end of your tether or contemplating any serious self-harm, a crystal, I'm afraid, will not be a quick cure for you. So please don't take anything that I say this evening as medical advice or professional help in that respect, okay? When I'm asked what my job role is, you know, when you fill in forms like on car insurance and stuff, in spite of the fact that I don't offer services like massage or reflexology any longer, I still consider myself a holistic therapist. And the term holistic means to consider all of the parts that make up the whole being. So to be a holistic therapist means to consider these parts and treat them accordingly. And this could mean utilizing many forms of therapy. Now, crystals are one part, but so are counseling and talking therapies, whatever they want to call them now. And where appropriate, of course, medication as well. So be mindful of not becoming so reliant upon crystals as your way out of feelings such as despair or grief, fear or anxiety, and so on. Crystals are amazing. They really are. And they've been a huge part of my own healing journey on many, many levels and continue to be a part of it today. But do consider all areas of yourself, okay? So that's my responsible statement made. Okay, so we will get to it. I've already mentioned, but I've noticed that we do have a few more sort of new numbers coming up on my screen. So do feel free to ask any questions in the comments at any point. Johnny is always here. Okay. Yes, Johnny was just typing how crystals can be one aspect of complementary therapy. Yes.
I'll leave you to do that. You do that, though.
You should have known I was prepared.
Yeah.
Okay. There are many, many phases of depression, and it can show up in our lives due to loneliness or grief and loss. And we can experience changes in our life as well that kind of knock us off our game. So with depression, rears up for short periods of time and resolving them with a little bit of self-care, with a bit of emotional support and perhaps a few crystals as well. And it can also be debilitating, leaving us with deep feelings of despair and maybe even the need to escape from it all once and for all. Now, I've experienced all of these extremes, okay? I've experienced the sort of mild sadness right through to the suicidal thoughts and everything in between. So I share this evening with you, not as someone who has read a book about depression or covered it as part of a course to help others, nor as someone who has just witnessed it from the outside. Though, of course, many lessons can and must be learned from those who support people with depression. I come from the inside, having traumas since my young childhood right through to my 30s that resulted in addiction to alcohol, food as well, attempted suicides, self-harm, and also a genuine belief that life was just pointless. And again, I say this not to show you how crystals have changed everything and turned it all around for me, but because I used a network of therapies. But they did include crystals, a lot of crystals. Crystals came to me. I didn't seek them out. They appeared in my life at just the right time, it seemed, because without them, I wouldn't have sought the help I actually got from a therapist. And I mean that quite literally. Without naming names, I myself was a holistic therapist offering crystal healing to a client who, whilst on the bed having a treatment, during her session received a message. And that message was to heal cat, heal cat. Heal cat, she told me, the voice said afterwards, and she was a counsellor. Now, we agreed to, because we didn't know each other very well, we agreed to swap therapies to support one another. The reality of the situation was my damage was so great that once the kind of worms was opened in therapy, in a therapeutic setting with her, I was basically a mess. And I couldn't actually return the favour of regular crystal therapy for her. And yet she continued to help me. Part of my therapy actually meant that for about 2 or 3 years, I couldn't use crystals. I was doing so much work on the inside, doing lots of shadow work that needed to be healed in other ways, including the therapy, that I actually turned away from them. And so I was unable to share the crystals with her as we agreed. But she understood that, of course, and I will be forever grateful to both the crystals for bringing us together, and of course to her for giving me the skills that I needed to create the life that I desired and never thought that I would have, quite frankly. But the crystals did return to me once again, hurrah, for the next part of my journey, and they have been with me ever since in one way or another. So my healing journey began with crystals, kind of took a pause in the middle whilst I adopted lots of other help networks, other therapies, and now it continues again with them to manage my depression. And tonight, I'm going to share with you some of the crystals that helped me reach the people that I needed to, and the crystals that have helped me support, or helped support me rather, after those people had served their purpose and moved on in my healing journey, because I don't see a therapist any longer. So, I now have other crystals that help me at this point in my journey. But what's important to understand is that crystals transmit and amplify energy, and they can work in one of two ways. So the first, when we're feeling at our most vulnerable, is to protect us from additional negativity. They're great at creating boundaries, filtering energies, amplifying positive energies on the inside, whilst sort of protecting us from influences on the outside. So when you're in the depths of a period of depression, no matter how deep, because we're not here to judge how deeply someone may be troubled either, when you're in these moments, you'll find that you're drawn to different crystals than when you're in a mind to heal yourself. Okay, there's a sort of cycle or a spiral as you go down. And we will be drawn to different crystals when we're at the top and feeling okay. And we'll be drawn to different crystals when we're spiraling down. And we'll definitely be drawn to crystals when we're at the bottom. We might not be drawn to crystals at all, quite frankly, but that's the whole point. You watch this, you make notes, you learn along the way so that you have something at hand when you reach the bottom bits and know that you can come back up, okay? But sometimes the first step is to stop, to create a place of safety, okay? And allow the crystal to protect you from taking on any further burdens. So the first two crystals I'm going to share with you are the two that I could not get enough of when I was at that point. What's just occurred to me is I haven't brought my labradorite, Johnny.
Oh.
So we'll have to make do with just knowing what labradorite looks like.
Do you want me to find the piece?
No, it's fine. Don't worry. By the time you found one, I'll have finished talking.
The next one.
I'll be on to the next one. Okay, the first is labradorite, and the second is fluorite. So you will be familiar with labradorite, I'm sure, for it has those beautiful colours, that labradorescence that shines blues and golds and greens, oranges and reds and purples if you're lucky enough to get some. This labradorescence is what makes it such a great all-round crystal for those with any depth of depression or type of depression, because the colours that you're drawn to will resonate with the chakra that is being most troubled. And because there's often more than a single colour in a labrad, it'll appeal to many because it seeks to protect the whole system. So there's so many colours in labrad, you're essentially protecting your entire chakra system. And actually, a lot of people will use it as a way to protect their aura, that sort of energy body that's on the outside of us as well, that surrounds us. It creates a nice shield. So it first and foremost is a shield, okay, around everything, stopping, as I say, any further burden being placed upon your energy field when you're feeling rough, shall we say. So you can make best use of labradorite by wearing it as a piece of jewelry so that you can have it with you when you'll feel most under pressure to continue being out in the world. Because, you know, even when we do, we are sort of dealing with times of depression, it doesn't mean that we're bedbound or anything. Sometimes we still are able to function, but we need that boundary. We need that little bit of energy protection to stop us from taking on any more burdens, okay, so that we can protect our mind from sinking any lower whilst we still function in the world. So wear it as a bracelet, wear it as a pendant, pair of earrings, whatever, carry a piece in your pocket. I really like the idea of wearing labradorite as a pendant because it sits over the heart and it's quite often the most vulnerable of the chakras as well. Thank you, Johnny. Yes, I'm sure that'll be a lovely picture of Labrad.
It's a whole page of mine.
A whole page of pictures. Okay, but the magical thing about labradorite is not only is it a great protector, it's also known as a stone of transformation as well. It wants to heal us. It wants us to find the strength to be in the world that we exist. And so it seeks to find our fears and calms them. It relieves us of the crushing emotions and begins to transform that energy into something much more positive, hope for change. Now, that beautiful labradorescence that I spoke of, which is basically the shiny bits in terms of connecting with the chakras, it connects with the ones that are most in need, but it also sends waves of color healing throughout the system. It brings light into the shadows. And one thing that's important to remember when you're dealing with depression is that it's not that we can eliminate the shadow aspects of ourselves, but we must learn to recognize it and learn to heal the many untruths that those with depression hold on to, and build our self-confidence back up, our self-worth, and find hope. Now, don't get me wrong, there will be those who have led a perfectly marvelous life. No traumas as a child, nothing too dramatic that's sort of turned over the apple cart of their life. But then something happens in adulthood that seems to cripple them. It could be a business failing. It could be the loss of a loved one. It could be an accident or something like that. And so you may not have been debilitated for a long period of time like others have, but that doesn't mean that your depression isn't real, nor that crystals can't help you out of it. In fact, labradorite is a great one because of its dual intention to both protect and heal. So it'll help remind you of your resilience, of how strong you are, and keep your natural flow of energy as you navigate that sudden change in your life. Situational depression is very common and is often short term. And by short term, I don't mean like a week. I mean, it could be a few months, it could be a year, but it's short term in that it's not lifelong. And it's often these events that people use the phrase, you know, time is a great healer. And it's true, it does. It doesn't console us very often in those moments, but it is true. And labradorite reminds us that time is allowed to stand still for a moment as you take time to adjust back into the everyday. So carry a piece with you if you're experiencing this kind of situational depression as well. All right. Do I sell pendants of labradorite? I don't think I have any. No. We can get hold of them. Absolutely. We do have a supplier that we go to who sells a lot of jewelry. It's like an Aladdin's cave. So if you are interested in a pendant, we can always just drop us a message afterwards and we'll sort something out. Okay, so fluorite. I do have a piece of fluorite. Always have a piece of fluorite on my altar. So fluorite, I'm sure Johnny will find some nice pictures, but I'm sure you know what fluorite looks like. I turn to fluorite for everything, and there's a good reason for that. Again, like labradorite, it holds many colors. So the piece I have here is kind of greens with whites and a hint of purple. But, you might find that you're drawn to other colours of fluorite in your search for a crystal during a period of depression. And the colour that you choose may, again, reflect which chakra is being most affected. And when I talk about chakras, these are basically energy points within the body. And if they're out of balance or being stressed, if they're under stress, they can create reactions in various parts of our body. So it could be physical, could be mental, emotional, or spiritual. But this is not a chakra workshop, so you can Google that one for now. I love blue fluorite as well, Sally. It is stunning. I remember we had a pendant, a blue fluorite pendant in one of our jewelry sales, wasn't it, at the end of last year?
Yeah.
Stunning, just stunning, absolutely gorgeous. The colours within fluorite are also looking for balance as well. That's the thing with fluorite. It's all about balance. So if you're drawn to rainbow fluorite, like I am, with all the amazing range of colours from blues and greens to these beautiful deep shades of purple, and as I say, clear as well, then you'll come to understand that there is an imbalance somewhere in your life. Now, I know that if I pick up my pieces of fluorite for, I pick them up now maybe once or twice a week, usually when I'm sat at this altar, because that's where I am at this very moment, my altar, and I have a piece here all the time. But I tend to pick them up far less now than I did 10 years ago. So I know that I am finding some balance in my life with the use of various spiritual practices based on the types of emotions and triggers that arise for me in each moment. Okay, so you will find that over the years, if you're suddenly drawn to one particular crystal and you can't get enough of it, that may last for a period of time until that crystal has helped you find that balance, and then you'll put it down and you won't pick it up again. Or you might just pick it up every once in a while when you're feeling those sort of old feelings return. So if you find that you're not drawn to a crystal again and again and again after you once were addicted to it, don't worry, don't throw it away, just tuck it away somewhere safely, because especially if you feel like it's supported you through difficult times, you may be called to use it again, okay? And you'll be familiar with it. But that was a bit of a tangent I went off at there. So the thing I love most about fluorite is that it works like a sponge. It's a sponge. It soaks up negative energy, that crappy energy that you just don't need. So if your depression is brought about or worsened by other people, or their sort of behavior, their actions, or your environment, and they're just, people are maybe just piling crap onto you, and you just don't need any more of it, have a piece of fluorite nearby to soak up that rubbish. It'll need cleansing regularly, so keep an eye on it. And you'll know when it needs cleansing, because it just won't feel the same. It won't feel as crisp an energy. It'll feel sluggish. Some people even say that it literally feels like it's greasy or it's grubby. So cleanse it regularly, because it is a very, very effective crystal for soaking up all of that sort of negative or unwanted energy from around us, whether it's situations or people. But many of folk have that I've known have had co-workers in particular. It's where it's very effective. They just suck the life out of you, these people. Or being in certain office environments are just really difficult to deal with. So a discreet place for a nice little carving, something that just looks lovely on your desk, works magic. But fluorite is also a teaching stone. So this is, again, why I absolutely love it. It helps us to understand what it is, what is the trigger, basically, or the cause, or the thing that exacerbates your depression. One of the reasons why fluorite has always been a crystal for me is that it gives me insight. And for me, the only way to manage the triggers that cause periods of low moods or deep depression or even mania, because I experience all those extremes, is by identifying and understanding the triggers. It doesn't mean that working with fluorite will mean we're never triggered again, but it does mean that we can be prepared for it because we understand it. This understanding of the mind it can be a really great skill to have in order to lead that happy life in spite of depression. Some of us will have chemical responses in our body that cause imbalances of mental state as well. And so there isn't necessarily a whole lot that we can do to change that without perhaps the intervention of medication. But that doesn't mean that we can't use crystals like fluorite to come to understand our mind better, to live with depression rather than allowing it to overwhelm us. Okay, so no matter what the cause of your depression, fluorite is definitely a go-to. Okay, if you have any questions, pop them down now. I'm going to take a water break. So I am yours. And then I'm going to go on to the next couple of crystals that I want to mention. Okay. Right, the next couple of crystals that I want to go over this evening are for when you're in a good state and you want to stay well. So we can always use crystals to promote balance, promote good mental health, and almost reinforce when we're in a good moment. But know this, as much as they will help us to do that, from my experience, if there is something that needs to be seen, felt, heard, and triggered, it will be. We mustn't fear the depths. So the crystals that I mention next are to help you feel strong in your heart and your mind that you have reached a place of wellness, of balance, of, dare I say, happiness. And that even when brought back down into those shadows, you will know in your heart and in your mind that there is a way out because you've seen it. You've felt it, you've lived it, and your crystal of stability and balance will remind you of that. So these are the two crystals that I'm going to mention now. So, where's my fluorite gone? Not my fluorite. Oh, no.
What are you looking for?
My moonstone. My moonstone's disappeared off my altar.
Can you use it downstairs?
Oh, I've just left them all down. This is the problem with having multiple altars. Right, moonstone is the first one, and orange calcite. Now I know that's in the room here. It's just over there on the mantelpiece. Johnny will get that. So moonstone is synonymous with balance, with emotions, with intuition, and of course the moon. It's that lovely, nurturing, feminine energy of lunar energy, and a crystal that's also supportive, particularly for those who deal with chemical imbalance depression. And the reason that I like this crystal for when feeling in a good place is that it's also a crystal that will help soften the intensity of the drop in mood as you start to feel yourself spiraling down. So, you know, when you start to feel that dark cloud is sort of coming over to you, moonstone will help you ease into it, knowing that balance will be restored when it's time. It's a very nurturing crystal, comforting in difficult circumstances, but also very homely as well. So when I'm feeling good, a piece of moonstone resides in the place that I love it most, usually, to remind me of what is good in my day, in my life. It puts itself on my altar. It is on my altar, the one downstairs. It helps to keep those wonderful, loving energies around me so that I can experience the beauty of life, of being connected with the divine universe, connected with my soul. Are we having a sale soon? Yeah, potentially. Yeah. You know, one of the things that upsets many people with depression, myself included, is the phrase, what have you got to be sad about? Or, you know, there are plenty who are worse off than you. Pull yourself together, pull yourself out of it. And of course, these are terribly ignorant statements. but they're not said with malice in most cases. It's just that others who don't experience those deeply low points in their lives cannot understand that it's not as simple as a switch to be flipped in the mind. But, and I may get roasted for this, but I'll take the risk because, as I say, I'm speaking from the side of experience with depression, not an outsider. I believe these statements hold some weight. They're just spoken from an outsider's perspective. I'm not saying that we should sit here and look at how others are worse off than us or chastise ourselves for being sad, because that clearly won't work. But by working with crystals like Moonstone, we can reinforce the things that we do have that are good. Okay, we can help our minds to create new triggers that point towards memories of good times. I don't mean going on a carousel with your dad when you were a kid or a donkey ride on the beach when you were 10. I mean when you have those times when your mind is strong or stronger, even if it's not at its strongest. When you have those times when your heart actually feels hope or joy or peace. Work with a crystal like Moonstone and sit with it and fill it with all of those positive and warming feelings that you're having whilst you're having them. It'll serve as a reminder when you do sink down into the pit next. It'll be like an anchor in the world of peace up here with a balanced mind. And I know that even when I can feel my mind start to slide down, I'll sit at my altar, I'll pick up my Moonstone and I just hold it. It's as simple as that. It reminds my mind and my heart, even if I slide right down to the bottom, I've made it up before and I can do it again. And it has kept me here, it has kept me alive, and more than that, it's kept me living. So Moonstone is a very, very powerful crystal. Okay. Now, orange calcite, on the other hand, I have this piece here. This is my favorite piece of orange calcite. This is in this room all the time. It sits on my mantelpiece. Now, this altar is residing in my bedroom. So it's in my bedroom because this is where I spend most of my time, especially when I'm not in a great place. So this has been in my bedroom for forever, must be like 15 years now or something. And it actually came to me when I was in a pit of depression. But calcites, again, are great cleansers of energy. So it might not be the crystal that I pick up and hold much at all, really. But I'm grateful to have been given many skills to manage depression so that I rarely dive into that pit these days. But when I do, it's just there on the mantelpiece, sending its energy into the room. And that's where I need it most. When you're in the rock bottom state of depression, you don't want to get up and set your altar up and pick a crystal up. You don't want to go into a meditation. You don't want to do anything half the time. So you need something that's going to be influencing you even when you don't want to pick it up. This is not my crystal for holding. This is a crystal to influence my environment that I'm sitting within. And when I look at it, I smile because it's just so Moorish. It's just so cheery. It's like a big chunk of orange that I just want to eat. So an orange, you know, is the color of joy and happiness, and it lifts the mood. It really does, just because of its color. Genuinely, the color can have such a strong impact on us that it can trigger the body to release endorphins, those lovely feel-good hormones that we've got in our body. And I use it in a way similarly to Moonstone, but as I say, more broadly within a room. I'm just going to put that over there so I don't drop it, don't knock it. So yeah, if you have somewhere that you love to be, put it there and let it fill you with joy. And as you experience those good times, you're kind of creating a battery pack of feel-good energy for if and when you begin to slide down the emotional slide. And you can always move the crystal to where you end up. So if you love being in the living room when you're in a good frame of mind, then keep it there. And then let it be charged with all that wonderful energy of your joy and the joy that you have from spending time with others around you. And then if you start to sink on your spiral down, grab it and you retreat to your bed, stick it in your bedroom, and it will then release that energy around you whilst you're in your lower state of mind. Okay, and it'll help you as well whilst you sleep, because of course when we're asleep, our ego, our conscious mind is not in the way and it's not blocking us. So we're almost more well, I don't want to use the word vulnerable. What's the word I want to use, Johnny? We're more, I lose words sometimes, but we're more sort of able to take it on unconsciously. Yeah, we're unconsciously taking that energy in. So now my final crystal, and again, I don't have this around at all very often, but Johnny, if you could just grab the pink one off there. People who know me will know what crystal this is going to be. My final crystal for this evening is for those who are dealing with depression that is definitely rooted in trauma, any kind of trauma, but particularly emotional. So physical, emotional, or sexual abuse in your past, because all of them have an emotional element, grief, anger, that sort of thing. And the experience responses such as substances to numb the pain, who get angry or violent, you might have nightmares, that sort of thing. Okay, so this is a big one. All right, I want to say this before I even tell you what crystal it is. This is a big requirement. You have to work with this crystal properly. You have to be ready to begin the process of healing those areas of your trauma. Whether it is grief or any kind of abuse, you have to be ready. And perhaps you're already going through some kind of therapy, counseling and so on, or you're about to because you're feeling ready, you're seeking it out. Or if you're undergoing some really focused shadow work and you just feel ready basically to let the crap out of the bag, you'll want to have a support system in place. This isn't just about the crystal, that this crystal will help everything to be unleashed. So a support system can be obviously a therapist, or it could be someone seriously there for you, someone who knows what you'll be doing and knows that there's a potential for deep emotional healing that's going to take place, not just Marcia down the road who says that she'll pop by for a cuppa and a quick chat if you feel a bit sad. Okay, we need, when you're doing this kind of work, if you're really, really ready to release that kind of work, that kind of trauma, have a strong support network. And my crystal of choice to support you through that and to kickstart things is rhodochrosite. Now, people who know me will know that this is by far my definitive crystal of choice for emotional healing of the deepest level. It may seem like it's just a really gentle, pretty pink with wavy patterns, you know. It just looks like it's a lovely heart crystal on the surface. But this baby packs a punch. It really does. And it's genuinely for those who are ready. Now, there's a proviso with this. I am not saying that if you have a bracelet with this now and you're wearing it this very moment, or you were wearing it last week, that you'll be going through all kinds of emotional release with unknown sources. No. Remember, crystals will only really work with you if your intention is to work alongside them. Sometimes they come along for the ride and work in the background. And I say this because there are many times when in my life when, you know, way before I knew of crystals, and certainly before I knew of their ability to help us heal, I was drawn to jewelry that would just make me feel a certain way, or that I just couldn't take off. And when later in life, and I learned all about these gemstones and whatnot, when I've looked back, the type of jewelry, the gemstones that I was wearing at certain points in my life were clearly significant. They were clearly brought to me rather than me seeking them out. So crystals will come to you in, you know, in different ways. The right crystals came to me at the right time, and they will for you. So If rhodochrosite has made its way into your life and you've not been consciously doing any shadow work or emotional healing, the likelihood is it's working with you in a different way. For example, it's also a crystal that builds the immune system. So if you've been unwell or undergoing any treatment with medication for something, even so far as chemo, it will help support the body's natural healing process. It will rebuild the immune system. But when we consciously choose to work with this crystal and we know that we're going through some emotional crap, and if it feels right to do so, to work with it, it will have the biggest impact on your healing journey. I promise you that. Okay, so this is rhodochrosite. Yes, rhodonite. It's all easily confused. They're both pink. Rhodochrosite typically, unless you're going like down seriously expensive, high quality rhodochrosite, is more of a soft pink. Having said that, really low grade rhodonite is quite a soft pink, isn't it? But it's got more grey in it. Than rhodochrosite has. But yeah, it's sort of identified by the waves and the circles within it. It's just got some fabulous patterns. It's really lovely crystal. So there you have it. Those are my 5 go-to crystals for dealing with depression of varying types and intensities and at different stages of the emotional cycle. Do let me know if you found it helpful. Do pop some questions in the comments if you have them, whether you have them now or whether you have them later. You can always message the page as well if you'd like some support or want questions answered that perhaps are a little more personal. But yeah, do let me know if it's helpful. And as I said at the beginning and in the posts running up to this live session, if you feel it would be of help to someone you know, give the link to this workshop a share as well on Facebook. The video replay is also available in our free Woo portal that I mentioned at the beginning. If you go over to wooguru.co.uk, once I've uploaded it, after we're finished tonight, there'll be a replay. And there's also a video on crystals for empaths as well in there. So that might be useful for you. And more workshops and other Woo content as well is available. So if you're interested in working with me more intensely or on a regular basis with access to my support on Facebook and via email, our Woo membership is also now open for new registrants. We'll be activating new members on the 1st of April with our theme, The Sacred Sacral. Can you imagine what that might be about? Mm-hmm. And I'd love to get to know you and support you on your healing journey. So you can find out more about that over at the website as well. Thank you so much for joining me this evening. It's always a pleasure. Always. You're very welcome, Sally. I'm glad you learned lots. Very, very glad. Thanks, Caroline. I'm pleased you found it helpful. Oh, Sarah, this is my one. I love this. This is my moon tapestry. Yes, I love it. It just means that Johnny can hide behind me and be like the great Oz. working his magic behind the curtain. Behind the scenes. It's ever so good. Thanks for joining me. It's always a pleasure to bring the experiences of crystals and crystal healing over to you. So I'm pleased that you found it helpful, and keep an eye out for future workshops. There'll be plenty more, I'm sure. Have a fabulous evening. Toodles for now. Bye-bye.